Donald Trump is back in the news. There's a new poll that just came out. I want to share the results with you because this is, at this point, maybe a little bit surprising, but it also might spell a more positive future for everybody. So NBC News says, out of office, off of Twitter, still complaining about the election results. The last 100 days or so haven't been kind to Donald Trump. Our new national NBC News poll finds his ratings among all adults stand at 32% favorable, 55% unfavorable, which is down from his ratings in January, 40%, that was even after the attempted insurrection, and 53% unfavorable among registered voters, as well as where he was in the poll right before the election, 43% favorable, 52% unfavorable among registered voters. By comparison, President Biden's current favorable-unfavorable stands at 50% positive, 36% negative. Even Trump's poll within his own party appears to have lessened, with 44% of Republicans saying they're more supporters of Trump than the GOP versus 50% who say they're more supporters of the GOP than the former president. So, talked about this a little bit on Crystal Kyle and Friends the other day, but that's the first time since his election, since I think 2016 when he got elected, that now that number is reversed. It was for a very long time, if you talk to Republican voters and say, who do you trust more, Trump or the Republican Party, they would say Trump. This is the first time it's the opposite. And now Republican voters are saying, I'm more of a Republican than a Trumper. So, I mean, the question needs to be asked, because this is the first time we're seeing numbers like this. Has the fever finally broken? Has the fever finally broken? And, his approval rating being all the way down at 32%, that's low, man. That's very, very low. I think that's in the ballpark of his lowest ever. I remember George W. Bush's lowest was in the 20s. I think it was 22%. I'm not sure. Maybe Trump dipped barely into the 29%, 28% area once or twice, but this is near his lowest ever. And here's the problem he's now facing. He's a bullshitter. He's a master bullshitter. He's arguably the best bullshitter that ever lived. And the problem for him is, if you're a bullshitter, you need to always be in front of your audience to keep bullshitting them, to keep weaving your narrative and your story. And now, he's not in front of people anymore. He's not on Twitter. They deplatformed him effectively. And now he's just doing these press releases that almost nobody reads. I mean, some news outlets will cover some of them, but nobody's really paying attention to that nearly as much as they were paying attention to his Twitter feed. And so the bullshitter is being kept away from his audience and his marks. And when that happens over time, the stranglehold fades. The magic wears off. And that's sort of where we are. So listen, there's a little bit of an uncomfortable conclusion from this, and that is deplatforming effectively works. Now, the reason I do that is because I don't think the real question should be, does it work, does it not work? Because I think people should take a principled stand on the side of free speech as much as possible. But in terms of the effect that it had, if the idea was, hey, this will make him a lot less relevant, mission accomplished. It made him a lot less relevant. And now he's underwater. It's hard for me to imagine how he bounces back from this. How do you bounce back if you're not on social media and constantly in people's faces and able to tell your story and weave your narrative and leave the impression that you want to leave? I don't know how he bounces back from this. How could he, even in theory, how could he bounce back from this? I don't know. Because he's kind of hidden away off in a corner now and more irrelevant by the day. So it'll be interesting to see if he runs for president again. I really do think that he's the favorite on the Republican side by far, because again, the numbers show that as well. But isn't he at a massive disadvantage and aren't his hands tied behind his back if he's not on social media if he runs again and he's up against a bunch of people who are on social media? I don't know. Well, it might also be the case that if he jumps back in, then the media will do what the media does, which is kind of relentlessly cover him and hyperventilate nonstop, in which case that will probably have the backlash effect like it did last time and end up helping him even though they're trying to hurt him. That might be the thing that keeps him in the game, but that would be the supreme irony, wouldn't it? That, like, the media who hate him a lot actually were the ones who inadvertently helped him and made him become president because they gave him so much free advertising, and the attacks that they did against him just weren't good enough to really make people turn on him. So it's funny. The thing that really led more so to people turning on him is his complete absence. Which goes to show you the strategy of the media to completely ignore you versus cover you negatively. Usually ignoring you works better than covering you negatively. I mean, you can see this actually with the Andrew Yang race for New York City mayor. The media has been viciously, relentlessly smearing him. I'm not saying there aren't legitimate critiques of Andrew Yang. I have many myself. But what I am saying is the critiques the media has of him are not substantive, and they're really stupid critiques. And it hasn't hurt him. He hasn't gone down in the polls. If anything, he's gone the other direction. He's gone up in the polls. So, but when Andrew was running for president and he was largely ignored by the media, that did hurt him. So you see the strategy of ignoring by the media leads people to turn on you more and forget about you more than if they go negative on you, because usually the way they go negative is very unpalatable and stupid, and so people don't buy their bullshit. So I think that's a lot of what we're seeing here with Trump. All the negative coverage in the world he was getting, and he was at 42%, 48%, whatever it may be, he would oscillate, but he'd be around there with all the negative coverage in the world. And here you have basically next to no coverage, and all of a sudden his approval plummets to 32%. So has Donald Trump's magic finally worn off? Is the spell broken? Is the stranglehold over with? It looks like it might be, but, never say never, because who knows, this could all change.